Hello everyone, back again, Mr. Ahmed with another video, part 2 for explaining mathematics framework in 3rd edition by Pupil Book 1.2 by Collins. In this video, especially part 2, we will be focusing on chapter 8, particularly fractions, and in this chapter I'm going to show you how to find equivalent fractions and how to write a fraction in its simplest form and how to add and subtract fractions with the same and different denominators. How to convert a simple improper fraction as a mixed number, another thing that I'll be targeting in this video. How to convert a mixed number into an improper fraction, and how to add and subtract mixed numbers with the same and different denominators. I'll be walking you through actually more exercises from the book, and I'll be mainly focusing on answering the study guide for grade 7, which is let's say the pages mentioned as you can find in Madarisnet if you have an access already. So stay tuned, and before we start, I recommend you to watch the first video, the part 1 about equations, which is chapter 14, and all the best. Stay tuned and focus. Now guys, to understand fractions, you can head back to page 149 in your book, and you can find a very pretty good example using a pizza slices and a whole pizza to represent fractions. In here you can find another example representing the same idea, which what fraction is shaded. Now let's ask a question. What fraction is shaded? Now this shape is a hexagon. It's a hexagon that got 6 slides, and it's also being split into equal parts. They are all triangles, okay? Now some of those equal parts have been shaded. As you can see here, these two parts being shaded. And we're asked in this question, what fraction of the shape is shaded? Okay, so what fraction is shaded? Now, a fraction, as we know, is made up of two numbers separated by a line. The bottom number is the denominator, which represents the total number of equal parts in the whole shape. The job of the denominator is to show us the total number of equal parts in the whole shape. Okay? In this shape, as you can see, let's start counting how many parts do we have. How many equal parts this shape has been split into. There are 5 triangles on the top row and 5 more triangles on the bottom row. Altogether are 10, and so we can say that our hexagon has been split into tenths. Okay, that means the denominator must be 10. Okay, now heading to the top number, which is the numerator. In a fraction, the top number we call it numerator. The numerator actually represents the number of equal parts that are selected, representing the number of equal parts that's selected. In this example, we have 2 parts selected or shaded. Okay, as you can see, 1, 2. And we can see that there are 2 triangles that have been shaded in this example. So that's 2 triangles out of possible 10 triangles. Our numerator is 2, our denominator is 10. And the fraction that's shaded is 2 tenths. Okay, now if you wrote 2 tenths as an answer, it's correct. But you need to simplify it as possible, because there is a simpler way to put it. And it's always a good idea to simplify, guys, okay? Simplifying a fraction involves finding another fraction that's worth the same, that's equivalent. That means it's the same, not the same numbers, but the same worth, the same value. What can we divide 2 and 10 by now? So to simplify that, because we need to divide. We could divide them by the same number, 2. Okay, which is number 2. This is the common factor that we can find between the numerator and the denominator. Let's see if we divide them. 2 divided by 2 equals 1, and 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So we have 1 over 5, or 1/5. Okay, and so we can say that 1/5 of our shape is shaded. Okay, of this 1/5 of our shape is shaded. At the moment, here's our shape split into tenths. And here are our 2 shaded triangles. Now imagine that we split it into 5 parts, okay? And we can see by putting the 2 parts together, they make a parallelogram, okay? How many of these parallelogram we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. which means that one paragram is shaded in this shape or two triangles are shaded. And we can simplify this and write it as 1/5. Okay, we can simplify it and write it as 1/5. So as we know now that the denominator tells us how many pieces the whole is divided into, thus this number cannot be 0 at all. And the numerator tells us how many such pieces are being considered from the whole number. So here is I'm the numerator, I tell you the number of parts, and I'm the denominator, I tell you the name of parts. Okay. Now let's have this particular example to understand more about fractions. How much of a pizza do we have below in this? The blue circle is our whole pizza. This is our whole pizza without cutting, okay? If we divide the whole into 8 identical pieces, so we will get 8. These 8 slices represent the denominator here, okay? We can see that we have still 7 of these pieces only. We don't have the whole 8. That means we have a fraction here. Therefore, the numerator is 7 and we have 7/8 of pizza. Okay? Now for equivalent fractions, they are the fractions that may have many different appearances but are the same. In the following picture, we have half of a cake, as the cake is divided into two congruent parts or two same parts, and we have only one of those parts. But if we cut the cake into more pieces, we can see that half, which is one slice over 2, as we cut it into 2 halves, is equal to 2/4, and 2/4 is equal to 4/8, or 4/8 is equal to 3/6. How do we know that this is true? To know that 2 or more fractions are equivalent, we must simplify and change into its lowest term. I'm talking about both denominator and denominator. You simplify a fraction is in its lowest term, or you reduce it. If we can't find a whole number other than 1, then that can divide into both the numerator and denominator, then we cannot divide it anymore. This is the simplest form. But if we can find a whole number that can be divided on both, that means we still have to simplify more. For an example, we have 5/10. 5 and 10 can be divided by 5 for an example. So if I divide 5 by 5, it's going to be 1. And if I divide 10 by 5, it's going to be 2. That means half is equal to 5/10 or 5/10. Now moving forward to understand how can we make equivalent fractions, not to make sure that they have the same worth. To make equivalent fractions, we multiply the fraction with a special form of a whole number. Okay, a whole number is multiplied with both denominator and the numerator, but this number has to be the same. Okay, it has to be the same. You don't change it. You don't, for example, do numerator multiply with 2 and then multiply the denominator with another number. No,